how are y'all doing today? I wanted to come and give you guys some tips today, but first I wanted to talk a little bit about Disney's new streaming service. So if you don't have been living under a rock, you will not know that Disney launched their new line of streaming, their streaming service, Disney Plus. And so my daughter was sick last week, and so I took that opportunity to take a little bit of time out and kind of watch some stuff and revisit some, of her childhood favorites. But in doing that, I noticed that, of course, Star Wars is part of the Disney universe, part of the Disney properties. And so I took that opportunity also, I was watching and revisiting some of my Star Wars favorites. I love the of course, original Star Wars. Those are my favorite. And of course, discovered The Mandalorian, which is amazing. And I think a new episode will be out tonight. So I'm excited about that. But as I was going through all of that, I was watching the Netflix show, The Toys That Made Us. And the one that caught my eye was the one on the Star Wars properties, because I'd obviously been watching Star Wars. And as you do, things will catch your eye from a feng shui perspective. And one of the things I noticed is that they were interviewing their patent attorney from that time, the patent attorney for Kerner Toys. His name is Jim Kipling. They were interviewing him about the whole process, and his office, I noticed, would be considered probably what would be a feng shui no-no to most feng shui practitioners. And so what it was is that they were interviewing him, and he was just face on to the camera, but there was a big window behind him. So his desk was actually facing away from the window, and his back was to the window. So a lot of feng shui practitioners could look at that and go in there and say that that's not good feng shui. But one of the things that, one of the sayings goes is that a good feng shui practitioner knows all the rules, and a master knows the exception to the rules. And I am not claiming to be a master, so that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is sometimes there's exceptions, and especially in the external environment. But when you're looking at your external environment, what I noticed, and here is this picture here, what I noticed is that behind him is a big row of buildings. So there's a nice space, and then behind him is, in the distance, is a nice row of high rises. And those high rises actually act as a mountain behind him, and it actually offers support. So it's actually really excellent feng shui. And I would gather, and I would guess to say that it's good feng shui because he's actually still practicing. He went on to work for Hasbro Toys, and he's actually he's been practicing law. I think I looked earlier, I tried to connect with him on LinkedIn just so I could see his bio, but he's been practicing law for over 40 years. And so I would say he's a very successful attorney. And so I would attribute some of that to, of course, your office and your environment, and that reflects. Your external environment is actually about 70% of your feng shui, so it's very important to your home to first assess the external environment. If you're able to tap into the energy of the external, then you're able to receive it better internally. And so one of my favorite feng shui people, I've taken a lot of his courses, and I have like every book he's ever written, Joey Yap, who is a master in Malaysia. His saying is that you can't perm your hair if you don't have hair. And it's the same thing with chi. You can't assess the chi, the energy from your environment, if you don't have the forms, So today I'm going to give you 5 things to look for with your external forms that ensures you have a good flow internally. So there's a saying within feng shui. There's usually like a cryptic, weird, like old Yoda type saying, to go back to Star Wars earlier, right? There's always like a weird, like cryptic saying. And so the saying for the landform, it goes something like 3 full and 1 empty produce a talent and a hero. And so if you have this perfect landform, you're going to be a talented hero. I'm just kidding. So, but it does speak to the importance of having good landform. You probably won't be a talented hero. You still have to do other stuff with your life. You can't just have perfect landform and it'd be, make your life wonderful. That's not really the way feng shui works, which I've talked about before. But anyway, so what you do want to look for though is, if you just go straight outside and look out your front door, you want to make sure you see a nice empty kind of space where chi can gather to collect. And so sometimes this comes in the form of like a courtyard. Sometimes just your yard. Maybe you have your business has a parking lot, out there, and it's a nice open parking lot, and there's not, like a lot of obstructions or stuff blocking it. And if you, and even an apartment, like if you live in an apartment, you might think like, well, I don't have a Ming Tong, but a lot of times apartments will be centered around like a courtyard, and the doors will kind of open to a courtyard area, or the doors maybe open, like to a pool. You'll see a pool out there, and maybe like a community garden. That's a good area to gather chi. And so it doesn't have to just look like a yard. It can be a golf course. It can just be a park. Maybe there's a nice park. I've seen some really cool things that produce a good Ming Tong, which I'm including in my examples. And so you just want to have a nice open area where the chi can gather. It's said that this area actually governs your wealth. And so it's obvious to say that you want a good Ming Tong because you need the flow and, to gather wealth. The next thing you want to look at, number 2, is the back of your property. So this is what is called the black tortoise. The black tortoise is not, you can't put a painting there to make a tortoise appear. It doesn't really work like that. So what you do want to see behind you though is a building maybe that's as tall or taller than your building, your home a little bit. It could be high rises. If you have a high rise apartment, you can look out, and as long as you see some that are a little bit higher than you, that's fine. So you just want to make sure that it's just like in this picture that, Mr. Kipling, the attorney, just like he has this nice support behind him. That's kind of what you would like to look for behind you. And like I said, that can be in the form of either a natural mountain or hill, or a virtual one that is made of high rises, or, and I live in the suburb, but it's still a kind of an urban environment that has, homes behind it. We don't have, my neighborhood doesn't have parks for some reason. It doesn't have, and then I live in a flat area that doesn't have mountains, just has slight contours. So you can look at stuff like that. You don't have to just look at a natural mountain, So what this is said to govern is your health. And so you want to make sure that behind you, you have the support so you can have good health. Number 3, you want to look at, so you look out the outside, and you're looking to the to the right. So if you look to the right of your home, this is what is called the white tiger. The white tiger is said to govern the female energy of your household. So you always want to make sure the white tiger side is a little bit quieter, and maybe a little, it can have a slight slope, but it cannot be higher than the left side. So the left side is, you can have a little bit of a slope or a hill, and sometimes this can look like a form in terms of having, maybe you have a large landscaping boulder there, or maybe the road just slopes slightly up. And so the green dragon is said to govern the male energy of the home, and it's also said to govern like the fame. So the right side is said to govern stress, and if you have bad forms on that side, it could lead to a more stressful environment within your home. If you have bad forms on the green dragon side, on the left side, it said that you could have problems with your reputation. So definitely don't want the reputation to be tarnished. And so the other one is called the red phoenix, the last one. And so this is again the area in front of your home, but you want to make sure the chi flow is not too harsh. So you want to make sure you're not living directly off of like a main highway that's too fast energy, too fast. Sometimes people might live looking onto water as like a channel that the water flows really quickly. So you don't ever want the water to flow real fast like that. If you have water in the front, which is great to have, you want to make sure it's a kind of a sentimental, slow moving water and not a fast rushing river. So it's said to, take the chi away. So these are the 5 things you want to look for in your external environment. Alright guys, so as I mentioned before, my podcast is now available on all platforms, and I will ask now that if you've been watching my videos, or if you've been listening to podcasts, if you've been consuming that content, make sure you go in and subscribe, because it just helps, you stay up to date on everything. You're catching all the latest episodes, and it's going straight to your notifications and your feed and everything. And I also do appreciate feedback on my videos and my podcast. So if you've been listening to any of that, if you've been watching, consistently, and you have any questions, or you just have a topic that you maybe want to know something about, go ahead and send me a message. I even have a chat feature on my website. I've had people shoot me messages on there before, and that's a really easy way to go about it too. And of course, my social medias are a good way to get a hold of me. So I will recommend this book through Amazon partnerships. So if you know, just subscribe on the, or click on the link below, and if you want to buy I do recommend Joey Epps' Feng Shui for Exteriors. It really has an amazing assortment of, you know, different types of water shawl. I mean, pretty much any situation you could think of in your external environment, I would highly suggest you checking this book out if you would like to be able to assess, because it even talks about ways to help fix some of these things that are wrong, or whether you should just avoid buying the property altogether. So again, if you're interested in that, by Dr. Joey Yap, Feng Shui for Homebuyers Exterior Edition. So I'll put a link up to that, and I will catch you guys soon.